Good day, grade 12 learners. Welcome to today's business studies lesson. This lesson is brought to you by the Gauteng Department of Education in collaboration with Sci-Bono Discovery Center, broadcast by Pagama Research and Development. And I'm the presenter, Tsidiso Tlhaka. Now, we'll be looking into grade 12. The main topic we'll be focusing on is your business role. And the subtopic we look into is the first three subtopic, which is human rights, inclusivity, and environmental issues. Now, let us look into our learning outcomes or objectives. By the end of this lesson, you should be able to do the following. You should be able to name or identify the human rights from given scenarios or statements, because the focus of our lesson will be on human rights. It will be about inclusivity. It will be about your environmental issues. So you should be able to identify the human rights, and you should further recommend ways in which businesses can deal with human rights in the workplace. Then you should further be able to outline the economic rights of employees in the workplace. Then you should recommend ways in which businesses could promote social rights and cultural rights in the workplace. Then explain the implication of equality, respect, and dignity on businesses. You should further be able to elaborate on the meaning of diversity issues in the workplace, then name diversity issues in the workplace, and then be able to recommend ways in which the business could deal with the issues of diversity in the workplace, and then discuss the benefits of diversity in the workplace. Then let us look into the terminology that is important for our lesson, because remember we have human rights, inclusivity, and environmental issues. Now, the human rights, it refers now to the rights that everyone must enjoy by the mere fact that they are human beings. This is what one should enjoy. And what you should know is that they are protected by the Bill of Rights contained in Chapter 2 of the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa. So this is to say, these human rights are applicable to the societies and communities at large. And we should know that businesses do not operate in isolation of the society and the community. So basically, businesses operate for the society and for the community. So it means businesses should know how to deal with those human rights, especially considering the workers that would be working for the business. So the human rights should be respected within the business as well. Then we have the term equality, which refers to the fact of being equal in rights, status, and advantages. That is something that the business should also consider, to say there should be equality in their organizations. And then we have the term respect, which refers to a polite behavior towards or a care for somebody that you think is important, which now businesses should think about as well, because the workers or the employees of the business become important to the organization, because the business is the one that will need the workers to produce for them. So as the workers, then we need to be taken serious. So that is to say the business should take their workers seriously and respect to show that their workers are important. Then dignity refers to now a calm or a serious manner that deserves respect. Then we also have economic rights. The economic right now refers to the right each person has to be economically active. Then we also have the social right, which refers to the right to welfare benefits. And then we talked about the economic right. And then as we continue looking into diversity, we also have the term diversity, which means the workforce must include groups of a variety of people who are different in race, gender, age, class, socioeconomic status. So diversity means the business should have different people from various groups of various backgrounds, such as the race. They should have Indians, they should have whites, they should have Africans, and they should have coloreds. They should also have different genders. They should have males and females. So with the term diversity, the business is able to achieve what we call inclusivity, because it is able to include everyone, because they have applied diversity, which means to accommodate different people with their different cultures, different races, and different genders. Then, the term inclusivity means that no one should be excluded because of their gender, age, race, or language and disability. So, everyone should be included. It doesn't matter their differences. That is inclusivity. Poverty refers to being unable to satisfy basic needs due to lack of income to buy your needs. Then when you're looking into race, race refers to the classification of people according to their physical differences, e.g. color of your skin. That is your race. Then with disability, disability refers to a physical or mental condition that limits a person's movement, sense, or activities. Then we have the term religion, which refers to a belief in and worship of a superhuman controlling power, especially a personal God. Then age is the length of time that a person has lived or a thing has existed. Then we also have culture, which refers to the ideas, customs, and social behaviors of a particular people or society. Then as we continue, we also have the term environmental issues, which relates to preserving a clean, safe, and sustainable environment. We also have the term protect, which refers to keeping safe from harm. Now let's start with the first aspect of our lesson, which is human rights. These are the human rights we will be focusing on, and we will be looking into ways in which a business can deal with this particular human rights. We have the right to privacy, the right to dignity, the right to equity, together with the right to freedom of speech and expression, and the right to information, together with the right to safety, security, and protection of life. So the focus should be on ways in which the business can deal with this particular human rights, especially in the workplace. So when you're explaining during the exam, you should not answer using maybe a phrase such as a person should respect the privacy of others. No, we are talking about the business. So you should start by saying businesses must ensure that they employ, because we're talking about the relationship between the business and employees, and to say how can the business show and apply the human rights according to the constitution by not affecting the workers or the employees that they have in their organization. So that is one thing that you should consider whenever responding to this question. Talk about the business and employees and how the business can respect that particular human right that would be applicable to their workers. Now, dealing with human rights in the workplace, the first human right we're looking into is the right to privacy. Now, when we're looking into the right to the privacy, we'll be looking up into employees and clients. So businesses may not violate the rights of employees and should not violate the rights of their clients, which is the customers. So they should again not provide personal information about employees to anyone. So that would mean the business is dealing with that particular human right properly, which is the right to privacy. So that is how the business would deal with that particular human right, which is the right to privacy. Ensure that the personal information about employees is not accessed by anyone. Then we move to another human right, which is the right to dignity or respect. Businesses must treat all their employees with respect and dignity, regardless of their socio-economic statuses. What is their socio-economic statuses? Is their financial muscle. We are looking into where they come from, their background. So those are their social or socio-economic statuses. So the business should treat employees with respect and dignity, regardless of where they come from or their socio-economic statuses. then they should also apply or deal with this human right by ensuring that they should not force workers to do embarrassing or degrading work. So that is your way of dealing with the right to respect or dignity by the business. Do not allow the workers to do embarrassing or degrading work. Then we move to another one, the right to equity. The business must now, when dealing with the right to equity, businesses must give equal opportunities, or they should not discriminate against their employees on the basis of gender or race. And then they should also apply relevant legislation fairly on all levels. This would be your Employment Equity Act, which is a legislation that talks about equality being applied in the organization. So when we are talking about the act that talks about, or the legislation that talks about equity, we know that the focus should be on Employment Equity Act. So that is the right to equity. Businesses must give equal opportunities. That becomes a key word there, and should not discriminate against their employees on the basis of gender or race. So if there's any human right that talks about discrimination, this is the only human right that talks about making sure that there's no discrimination and equal opportunities are granted to everyone in the business. Then we also have the right to freedom of speech and expression. Now, this is how the business can deal with that particular right. Businesses should allow open communication channels between management and employees. Furthermore, they should give employees a platform to raise their grievance without any victimization. So we are talking about now the idea that workers or employees should be allowed to talk or complain if there's a particular working condition that is not fair to them or that is not good for their work environment or workspace, and without being victimized because of complaining about that particular working condition. So that is the right to freedom of expression and the freedom of speech. It doesn't mean the workers or employees should disrespect. They should communicate in a professional way. That is now the freedom of speech and expression. Then we move to dealing with human rights. Again, we have the right to information. This is how the business can deal with the right to information. Employees should be updated as new information becomes available. That is one. New information, you must be asking yourself, what information are we talking about? This might be information about the legislation. The information about the legislation, because legislations are being adapted year in, year out. After 2 years, some legislations are adapted, some leave conditions might change, and that might affect the contracts of the employees. So that information about the legislation, about the leave conditions should be updated and should be made available to the employees. Then the business can apply the right to information again by making sure that now business needs to be transparent in their financial statements, or employees may request to see these statements with motivation. So that also shows now that information will be given to the employees because they have the right to information about the organization or the business they are working for. Even the financial statements can be granted to the employees if they have a valid reason to check those financial statements of the organization. So that is the right to information about the organization, or how the right to information can be practiced in the workplace. So when we're talking about human rights, keep in mind that the human rights that are applied in the society and in the community should not be similar to how the human rights would be applied inside the business. Inside the business, we are talking about the financial statements when we are talking about the right to information. We are talking about the legislation when we are talking about the right to information. When we are talking about respect, we are talking about the workers not being forced to do degrading work. So those are the human rights, and how they are applied inside the business is not similar to how they would be applied now in the society or in the community. So just be aware of that. And when you deal with such questions during the exam, keep in mind that you are talking about how human rights would be dealt with inside the business. Then we move. The right to safety, security, and protection of life. This is how now the business can practice the right to safety, security, and protection of life. The business can do that by providing workers with protective clothing, e.g., this can be gloves and footwear, so that employees are able to work and become safe in the period or in the process of performing their jobs. And then employees should work in a safe working environment, free from hazardous products or areas. That is your right to safety, security, and protection of life. For instance, remember during COVID-19, some companies had to now ensure that they design face masks for their employees. That was to say they're practicing the right to what now? Safety, security, and protection of life, because the aim is to ensure that workers become safe and workers are protected in the organization. And remember that doctors before COVID-19 always used the face mask because they are the ones who operate and should ensure that they keep the client safe and they also keep themselves safe. And then employees, again, remember, should work in a safe working environment, free from any hazardous or product or area, so that they become healthy, and that would show that the business is practicing the right to their safety, security, and protection of life. Now, let's talk about economic rights of employees in the workplace. With the economic rights, you should be able to outline them, meaning to outline can be similar to listing. You are not expected to explain a lot, you just have to know how to outline these economic rights. For instance, the first economic right is the right to be free from forced labor. It means employees cannot be forced to work. Then another one, they have to be free to accept or choose work. They have a right to choose the work you want to do. Then another one, they have a right to join or form a trade union, and they have a right to participate in a legal strike, not illegal, legal strike, which will be formalized and the court would approve. They have a right to do so. Then they have a right to equal pay for work of equal value. They also have a right to reasonable limitation of working hours. Hence, remember in your basic conditions, we talked about the working hours that are provided to say if a worker is working, for instance, 6 days per week, they should not work more than 8 hours per day. And then if a worker is working 5 days, they should not work more than 9 days, more than 9 hours per day. And then when we are looking into hours per week, it should not exceed 48 hours. So that is to go back now to the basic conditions of employment, to say now the basic conditions of employment act, it was drawn on the basis of the economic rights of employees, so that the rights of the employees are protected. Remember, your rights are rights that should be practiced to you as a human being because of the mere fact that you are human. So these are the economic rights that we are talking about, which protects the interest of both the business and the interest of the employees inside the organization. And then when you are looking into another right that workers have in the workplace, or economic rights employees have, is the right to safe and healthy working conditions. This is not similar to safety, security, and protection of life. This is now the safety of the workers, or the safety of the working conditions inside the business. So remember, you should be able to outline. You should be able to outline these economic rights for you to be ready for the exam. Then we have social rights of employees in the workplace. When we are looking into social rights, the focus should be on clean water. It's a keyword. We should also emphasize education and look into protection together with healthcare. And then we will see how now the business can promote these social rights, because these are aspects that are considered to be welfare of the workers. So when we're looking into ways in which a business could promote those social rights. For instance, when we are looking into the issue of clean water, the business must ensure that employees have access to clean water or social security. So this deals with the aspect of what? Clean water. So what should the business do to promote that social right? They ensure that employees have access. Access meaning employees can be able to get clean water. Then if they're able to do that, then they're promoting that social right. Then when you look into health, then the business should provide healthcare service. By doing what? By establishing site clinics to give employees access to basic medical examination. So what are we talking about when we are looking into the term site clinics? Site clinics are basically clinics that would be inside the business to ensure that there is basic medical examination does happen if maybe an employee is not feeling okay or an employee is not fit to work. So the business will be able to apply basic medical assessment or examination quicker than having to take the employee to hospital or to clinics. So that would promote from the business side the social right we call health care. Then as we proceed, we have another social right, which we call now education. This is how the business can promote that by encouraging employees or providing opportunities for skills, training, or basic education. So this again goes back to the issue of legislation to say that is why when you are looking into legislation, we have an act called skills development. It talks about businesses now being forced to ensure that they contribute towards the skills development of their employees. So when you're looking into that, you get to see that this comes from a social right called education, to say access to education should be granted even inside the organization or inside the business, because it's the social right, it has to be received. The development of workers is key because education is a social right to everyone. So as I said, some of these rights are considered to be applied differently in the community, but they should also be applied inside the business. So the sentence they're talking about providing opportunities for skills training or basic education now applies to the issue of education. Education as now a social right. And then another aspect is to encourage employees to participate now in special events such as World AIDS Day, which would also be considered to be education and maybe protection for the employees, because it would be educating them about how maybe to stay away or how to prevent chronic disease or a disease such as HIV and AIDS. So that is how businesses could ensure that they promote social rights such as clean water, such as protection, such as healthcare and education. Just keep in mind of the keywords so that you understand what we talked about. Now, let's talk about ways to promote cultural rights in the workplace. This is how a business can promote cultural rights in the workplace. One, employees should be trained on cultural tolerance so that employees are able to respect each other's culture. So cultural tolerance would mean that they would be able to accept each other's cultures, because they would be understanding what each culture means and why they perform some particular activities according to that particular culture. Because some employees would disrespect other employees' culture because of the lack of knowledge. However, if employees are trained on cultural tolerance, it would reduce the issue of disrespect that might happen because of the different cultural perspectives or backgrounds. Then, employ people from various cultural backgrounds. That is also a way in which a business could promote cultural rights to show that they are not only focused on one culture, they then have to employ different people from different cultures. That is another way. And then another way to promote cultural rights is to encourage employees to participate in cultural activities. And obviously, this should be the cultural activities of their choice. Then when we are looking into another way is to make provisions for different cultures. Now, this is the role of the business to say they should make provision for different what? Cultures, such as the food served in the canteen and the entertainment at the staff what? Functions. So that is ways to promote cultural rights in the workplace. Then regular cultural information sessions will help employees to respect each other's culture in the workplace, because the information would now allow employees to understand that each and every culture is important, so that there is no issue of disrespecting, as I emphasized when I was talking about cultural tolerance. So those regular cultural information sessions will help employees to respect each other's culture in the workplace. Then that is, or those are ways in which cultural rights in the workplace can be now promoted. Then we look into implications of equality, respect, and dignity for businesses. Businesses have implications, meaning they are involved when it comes to issues of inequality, issues of respect, and dignity. Now, businesses should treat all their employees equally, regardless of their race, color, age, gender, and disability. Now, that is considered to be one way to deal with the issues of equality, respect, and dignity. Furthermore, all workers should have access to equal opportunities, positions, or resources. So that is also another way in which equality, respect, and dignity can be now implicated towards the business, which means now the business should be involved. So a way in which a business can be involved is by allowing all workers to have access to equal opportunities, so that there's no one who feels like their equity is not respected, or they are not respected, or their dignity is not appreciated. So that is another way. And then another way is to say the business or the employer and the employee needs to comply with legislations with regard to equal opportunities or human rights in the workplace. That is another implication. The employer should ensure, they should facilitate the process and ensure that legislation is being complied with, and tell employees how to comply with that particular legislation. Then the mission statement should include values of equality and respect for each and every organization. That is how they're implicated, because if the mission statement, remember, informs how the business is going to achieve their vision. So in the process of talking about how they are going to achieve their vision, they should also talk about how they are going to include values such as respect and equality in the process of achieving their success for the organization. Because remember, the vision tells you about the long-term plan of the organization, but the mission emphasizes how the business is going to achieve their long-term plan in over the long period. So that is why it is important to have values of equality and respect, so that you show that you are implicated by equality, respect, and dignity. And then employers should respond swiftly and fairly to reported incidents of discrimination in the workplace, so that they show that they do not tolerate the issues of discrimination in their organization. Hence, we say they are implicated, or the implications of equality, respect, and dignity is to say they should respond swiftly and quickly to aspects of discriminations if they are reported. And then orders and tasks. This is to say, when the business is giving a task to their workers, it should be given respectfully. And remember, when we were talking about respect, we talked about a polite behavior for someone you respect or for someone important. So the workers of the business, they are important. So It means whenever the business is giving a task to employees, they need to give that task respectfully and allow the recipients or employees to have a say in the manner in which the task should be performed, because the employees are the ones who are going to do the task. So when you provide as a business the task, or as the manager, you should provide the task or give the task to the employees with respect, and also allow them to have a say on how the task will be completed. Then we have a typical exam question. We have 3.1. 3.1, you are expected there to identify the human right that is applicable to each statement below. That is 3.1.1. And then as an employee, 3.1.1 says employees are not forced to do embarrassing or degrading work, for 2 marks. And then 3.1.2, managers ensure that employees do not suffer because of discrimination. Then that is for 4 marks. And then 3.2, recommend ways in which the business would promote social rights in the workplace. Now I'm giving you 5 minutes to complete this. Then we will start diversity issues. And remember, you need to ask questions. You have your WhatsApp line there, 064-748-8913. It might be early in the term. You might not understand some aspects about this lesson. So I'm giving you an opportunity as well to say you do the task, and then we can also interact on the WhatsApp line, 064-748-8913. So let me give you that break so that you complete the short activity. It's only 10 marks. You just identify from the statement the human rights implicated and recommend ways in which you can promote social rights in the workplace, or a way in which a business can promote social rights in the business. Welcome back. Now let us look into our typical exam questions again with 3.1, which required you to identify the human rights that is applicable to each statement below. And then your 3.1.1 is the first statement, which is read as following: employees are not forced to do embarrassing or degrading work, for 2 marks. And then 3.1.2, managers ensure that employees do not suffer because of discrimination. Now, which 2 human rights are applicable there? Remember, I discussed them, and I made sure that you understand what we mean by this particular human rights. So when we are saying the employees are not forced to do embarrassing work or degrading work, which human right the businesses apply in there, and managers ensure that employees do not suffer because of discrimination. So when we are looking into the solutions, I think 3.1.1 should be the issue of the right to respect, or dignity, Then when we're looking into the issue of managers ensuring now that employees do not suffer because of the discrimination, that is considered to be the right to equity. So that is the right to equity. And then let's see what the solutions are. Now, 3.1.1, the correct answer there is the right to dignity or respect. That is 2 marks for that. And then when we look into 3.1.2, because we are talking about the key word there being the issue of discrimination, is the right to equality. That is 2 marks as well. There are 2, and that's how you get your 4 marks. However, let us analyze the statements again. Employees are not forced to do embarrassing work or degrading work. Remember, embarrassing and degrading work would lead to the dignity of the employee being now not being respected. So the dignity would be now fallen. So that would be a challenge. So that's why you get your 2 marks there. And then 3.1.2, managers ensure that employees do not suffer because of discrimination, because there should be equity. It doesn't matter how different employees are. They should all be treated the same way. Hence, we talk about equality there. Recommending ways in which the business would promote social rights. 4 marks. 1, the business should ensure that employees have access to clean water or social security. That is 2 marks for that. Then provide as well healthcare services by establishing site clinics to give employees access to basic medical examination. And then when you look into the others, encourage employees or provide opportunities for skills training or basic education. That would be correct as well. And for protection, it should encourage employees to participate in special events such as the World AIDS Day. That is a way in which a business could promote the right we call the social rights. For 4 marks, that's what you get. Now we start another aspect of our lesson, which is diversity issues in the workplace. What is our focus there? When we're looking into diversity issues, we look into the idea of inclusivity. We look into the idea of inclusivity. What do we mean by the term inclusivity? What do we actually mean by the term inclusivity? Inclusivity, now we are looking into including everyone. And then when you're looking into the process of including everyone and not excluding them, the best way to achieve inclusivity is by applying diversity, understanding what makes these individuals or workers different. Immediately the business understands what makes these employees different, they'll be able to come up with ways to accommodate their differences so that they don't become excluded. Hoping you understand that aspect. So the issue is inclusivity, but for the business to achieve inclusivity, they need to understand diversity, to say people are different, and for them to be accommodated, we need to know what makes them different. So issues such as poverty makes the employees to be different. Issues such as the race makes the employees to be different. Issues such as the gender makes the employees to be different. And issues such as language, together with the age and culture or religion, together with disability, makes the employees to be different. So the business should look into all these diversity issues and come up with ways to accommodate these employees who have different or who come from diverse backgrounds, so that they achieve inclusivity. Now, let us look into ways in which a business should now deal with these diversity issues. And you can have a scenario on diversity issues, and you will be expected to identify the diversity issues from the scenario. And maybe a follow-on question can say, recommend ways in which the business could deal with the diversity issues identified from the scenario. Then let's see on ways in which the business could deal with the first diversity issue, which is poverty. Now, dealing with poverty as a diversity issue in the workplace, what should the business do there? The business can supply free uniform to employees for safety purpose. So that, remember, uniform means everyone looks the same. So if there are aspects of poverty there, maybe some employees are poor, or some employees have recently started working and they don't have proper clothes, then it will not be seen because they'll have their uniform and everyone will be looking alike. So that is one way. And another way to deal with poverty as a diversity issue is to offer subsidized meals or canteen facilities on the premises of the business. Meaning subsidized, what do we mean? It means the business would have to contribute a particular percentage towards the food that is being sold inside the business, so that everyone can be able to afford to buy the food for their lunch. Then train all employees so that they can be able to deal with retrenchment in a case of unforeseen economic conditions, such as maybe COVID, which led to some businesses not being able to operate. It would be important that employees have the skills so that if it happens that they are being retrenched, meaning their contract is being terminated due to operational reasons, they will be able now to solve the issue by making sure that if you have the skill, you will be able to start your own business, or you will be able to maybe offer services to other private individuals. So that can help the employee to cope with the poverty situation that they might have to face due to retrenchment. So that is the ways in which the business now can try and solve the issue of poverty. One, they offer uniforms so that everyone looks the same. Two, offer subsidized meal. And then the third one is to train employees, because when you give the employees skills, they can still use their skills somewhere else to make a living using their abilities. So that is how a business would be basically dealing with the poverty issue. So as you can see on the picture, the woman there serves as the business, trying now to save employees from the particular poverty situation. So this would be considered to be the business. And then employees maybe who have the problem of poverty would be considered to be the man on the floor. So that is a way in which a business can deal with poverty as a diversity issue. And then dealing with race as a diversity issue in the workplace, the business should ensure that there is no discrimination should be made based on skin colors. And then another one is to ensure that the workplace is diverse by employing people from different racial groups. And then another one is to say now, when you're looking into the issue of race, remember that South Africa is very diverse. So the business should ensure that the issue of being different in races should not affect others in the business. So no discrimination should be made on the basis of skin color, because that would actually lead to an employee being dismissed if there's evidence enough inside the business. So that is a way in which a business could deal with the issue of diversity in the workplace, because the aim is to include everyone. As you can see now in the picture, we see people from different diverse backgrounds coming together, so joining hands. So that is the aim of the business. They can deal with diversity by ensuring that the workplace is diverse by employing people from different racial groups. As you can see there, we have different racial now groups. Then when appointments are made, previously disadvantaged should get preferential treatment. That is another way, because we're looking into improving and making sure that there is accommodation of people from different backgrounds and different races. Hence now, in the process of appointments we are talking about in the process maybe of hiring or in the process of recruiting, the business should consider those who were previously disadvantaged to get the preferential treatment. However, they should be skilled and qualified together with being suitable for the position. So that is a way in which diversity issue that we call race can be dealt with inside the workplace. Then dealing with age as a diversity issue in the workplace, the business should ensure that promotions should not be linked to age, but rather to a specific set of skills. So in the process of trying to promote an individual for a position, the business should think about now the abilities rather than the age, because the age doesn't mean one is skilled enough to be suitable for a position. So the first issue is to say, in the case of promotion, when dealing with the issue of age, or to show that the business is dealing with the issue of age in the workplace as a diversity issue, they should ensure that the promotion is not linked to age, but rather it is linked to the right set of skills. And then another one, a business may not employ children aged 15 or younger. That is another way of complying, ensuring that you respect the age. There should be a suitable age, or the workforce should be of the suitable age, 18 to 65. That is another way to show that you are dealing with the issue of age as a diversity issue. And then the age of permanent workers should vary from 18 to 65 to include all age groups. So when we are looking into dealing with the issue of age, we are looking into those aspects. One, promotions should not be linked to the age. However, it should be linked to the specific set of skills that are required by that post or by that job vacant. And then when we are looking into employing, the age of employment should be a person 16 years and older, not 15 years and younger. And then the age of permanent workers should vary from 18 to 65 to include all age groups. As you can see there, this one cannot be employed. This one still needs education. This one still needs to play an education. But then we can start employing from this age group, moving to this together with this. So when we are talking about promotion, the young individual who just graduated or has few years experience can still be considered for promotion. So that is a way of saying that you are including everyone. You are being diverse by understanding that even in the highest positions, you need people in management who are young. That shows that you're dealing with a diversity issue considered to be age. Then, dealing with gender as a diversity issue in the workplace, males and females should be offered equal employment opportunities. Then the business director should promote both men and women in managerial positions. That is another way. And then targets should be set for gender equity in the business. So that is a way in which the business can deal with gender as a diversity issue in the workplace. Males and females should be offered equal employment opportunities, meaning there should be a ratio to say how many females are employed and how many males are employed by the business, and the percentage or the ratio should be relevant or equal so that they show that they are including every gender in that particular business. And then business directors should promote both men and women in managerial positions, and targets may be set for gender equity in the workplace to say how many females should be there, especially looking into different levels of the organization. Remember, we have top, which we consider to be executive or top management, and then we also have middle and together with low or operational. So when we are looking into those, there should be fair or equal distribution of the genders in the working environment. So that is what we mean when we are talking about dealing with gender as a diversity issue in the workplace. We should not have more gender than the other gender. We should have equal distribution of the genders. Now, dealing with language as a diversity issue in the workplace, the business may specify that all communication should be done in one specific language only. And then another way they can deal with language in the organization or business is to employ an interpreter so that everyone can fully understand what is being said in a meeting. So if it happens that there's an employee who does not understand the language of communication that is applied by the business would have to hire an interpreter who uses the language of that particular worker, so that whenever there's a meeting, that interpreter would be able to interpret what is being said by the employees in that particular meeting. And no worker should feel excluded in meetings conducted in one language only. So they should ensure that they deal with that matter, especially in meetings, to say if there's a worker who does not understand, let us apply now a strategy such as hiring an interpreter to come and interpret for the worker who doesn't understand. So communication becomes key because the language now helps to facilitate the process of communication between the employees, especially during meetings, because most important information might be shared during the meetings. So that is how a business can deal the issue of language as a diversity issue in the workplace. And then dealing with culture as a diversity issue in the workplace, This is how a business can deal with culture. It can cater for special food or preparation methods in the workers' canteen. And then another one is that the business should acknowledge or respect cultural differences of the employees. That is to show that the different cultures are respected, because employees come from different cultures. Then another one is that the business may not discriminate against employees on the grounds of their cultural backgrounds and what they do in their culture. And then another one is to ensure that businesses must not force employees to do work that could be against their religion, because culture and religion somehow are intertwined, or we can consider them to be the same, because with culture is what you do every day. And remember that religion somehow to some employees informs their culture, because if you practice your religion every day, you are basically practicing your culture, because it becomes part of you. So culture is what you do every day, but religion as well forms part and parcel of your culture, because when you are looking into religion, you are looking into what you believe in, and sometimes what you believe in would force you to make it a culture. So that's what a business can do to deal with culture as a diversity issue in the workplace. Because remember, South Africa is diverse. We have 11 provinces. We have so many ethnic groups. So the business should try and include everyone from their religious perspective and from their cultural perspectives as well. And then dealing with disability as a diversity issue in the workplace, this is what the business can do to deal with diversity in the workplace. One, they can ensure that employees with disabilities are treated fairly. That's number one. And then another one is through another one to be done by the business is that the business should provide employment opportunities for people who are physically challenged. That is a way of dealing with disability. You cannot say you're dealing with disability while you don't have an employee who has a disability as a business. So the business should employ and provide opportunities for people who are disabled. Then accommodate people who are physically challenged by providing facilities or ramps for wheelchairs and etc. So as you can see there should be maybe accommodation of providing those facilities, such as maybe the parking lot should show that this particular employee is protected. When they park, they need to park in this designated parking. And then another one could be the issue of creating as they're saying, creating the facilities such as ramps for wheelchairs for employees. So this is a ramp, as you can see, to say someone who's using a wheelchair can use a ramp and can move like others. That is to show that you are including them inside the business. You are dealing with that diversity issue. Remember, diversity makes you understand that people are different. And then when you understand that people are different, you are in a better position as a business now to include them. So that is why we deal or talk about diversity for businesses. Then, what are the benefits of diversity in the workplace? The benefits are the workforce or a workforce diversity improves the ability of a business to solve problems. That's one. Then number two, employees value each other's diversity and learn to connect or communicate across lines of differences. And another one is that diversity in the workforce improves motivation. And then another one is that employees demonstrate greater loyalty to the business because they feel respected, accepted, and understood. And remember, included. Every employee needs to be to feel included, because with diversity, those are means the business would do to ensure that they include their workers. Then another one, employees from different backgrounds can bring different perspectives to the business, which would make more money for the business. Then employees represent various groups and are therefore better able to recognize customer needs and satisfy those consumers, because there's some businesses that they have customers all over the country. But if you have employed now different people from different diverse backgrounds, they are able to know what would work for the people from their same culture, maybe, or religion, or maybe from their ethnic groups. So that would help the business as well to benefit from such. So those are the benefits of diversity in the workplace, and businesses with a diverse workforce are more likely to have a good public image and attract more customers. So those are the benefits of diversity. It improves the ability of the business to solve problems. Employees value each other's diversity and learn to connect or communicate across the lines of differences. And then it improves motivation as well. And employees would demonstrate great loyalty because the business would be respecting and accepting them with their different cultures, genders, and other diversity aspects. And then employees from different backgrounds can bring different perspectives. So those are the benefits to the business. And we have another activity. 3.3 this time, read the scenario below and answer questions that follow. Let me read it for you. We have Elsba printing or printers. Elsba printers employs more males than females, and their building does not have facilities for people who use wheelchairs. Then 3.3.1, you are expected to identify 2 diversity issues affecting Elsba printers in the scenario above and motivate your answer by quoting from the scenario above. And then 3.3.2, recommend 2 ways in which EP should deal with each of the diversity issue identified in the question above. Now, I'm giving you another 5 minutes to complete this. Then we look into environmental issues. And then after looking into environmental issues, we'll look into activities on that as well. And then we are done. So that's your 5 minutes. Remember, 064-748-8913. That is our WhatsApp line. Ask questions. You get the answers in real time. Thank you. Welcome back. Now let us look into our typical exam question again. Now the focus is on diversity issues. Read the scenario below, 3.3, and answer questions that follow. We have Elsba printer, EP. Now EP employs more males than females. That's the first statement. And the other one says their building does not have facilities for people who use wheelchairs. Now, 3.3.1, identify 2 diversity issues affecting Elsba printers in the scenario above and motivate your answer by quoting from the scenario for 6 marks. And then 3.3.2, recommend 2 ways in which EP should deal with each of the diversity issues identified above for 8 marks. What could be the diversity issues there? The first part talks about males and females, and immediately you see that you should be knowing what is the answer, because there's only one diversity issue that can talk about males and females. And what we see there is that EP employs more males than females, meaning they're not dealing properly with that particular diversity issue. And then with the second sentence now, their building does not have facilities for people who use wheelchairs. That is also another diversity issue that is not being dealt with there. So according to me, according to my thinking, that might be gender as a diversity issue. And when you're talking about the building that does not have the facility to accommodate employees who use or people who use wheelchair, can consider that to be disability. Because you need to read the scenario and go through the scenario and make sure that you are very sure, because sometimes you might think you're correct only to find out that you're making mistakes. So let's see what are the solutions there. The first one, gender, as I anticipated, 2 marks for that and 1 mark for the motivation. And then the second one, disability, 2 marks for that and 1 mark for the motivation, and you get your total of 6 marks. Then when we look into 3.3.2, recommend two ways in which EP should deal with each of the diversity issues identified above. Now, the first one was gender. When we are looking into the issue of gender, this is how it can be dealt with as a diversity issue. Males and females should be offered equal opportunities. That's 2 marks for that. And then the business director should promote both males and females in managerial positions. That's 2 marks. And then targets may be set for gender equality. That is maximum there because we have 8 marks. So that is 4 for gender. Then looking into disability, ensure that employees with disabilities are treated fairly. That's 2 marks. And then businesses should provide employment opportunities for people who are physically challenged. That is 2 marks as well. And then accommodate people who are physically challenged by providing facilities or ramps for wheelchair or for wheelchairs. And then that's 2 marks for that as well. And then it's a total of 4. You get 8 for that. Now we look into environmental issues, protecting the environment and human health. Let's look into the focus there. We'll be looking into how the following parties inside the organization can participate in protecting the environment and human health. The first aspect is to say, what is the responsibility of the employer in protecting the environment and human health? And then we also look into the role of the health and safety representative in what? Protecting the workplace. Then we also have responsibilities of the employee in protecting the environment and human health, together with how the business can protect the environment. Those are the 4 aspects that we will be looking into. Now, let us look into responsibilities of the employer in promoting human health and safety in the workplace. The employer might be considered to be the business because they are the ones who have employed the employees or who have established the organization. So what can they do as a business now to ensure that they promote human health and safety in the workplace? The business can provide and maintain all the equipment that is necessary to perform the work. That is one. Then another one is to ensure that the equipment must be used under supervision of designated trained workers. That is another way. And then they should keep the systems to ensure that there will be no harm or harmful impact on the health and safety of workers. That is another way the employer could ensure human health and safety. Because remember, if they maintain all the equipment, it means the machine will not break down to an extent that if it breaks down, it will not. It means if it does not break down, it will not harm or cause any injuries to the workers. And then equipment should be used under supervision of a designated trained worker. So if it happens that a new employee is given an opportunity to use a particular machine that might be dangerous to their human life or to their health, it should be used with supervision of a designated trained worker, meaning a worker who knows how to operate that particular machine. And then it keeps the system to ensure that there will be no harmful impact on the health and safety of workers. And then as we proceed, it reduces the dangers to workers and provide personal protective clothing. That is another responsibility of the employer, to say they can reduce dangers to workers and provide personal protective clothing to those particular workers. And then emergency exit doors signs should be visible to all employees, so that if anything happens that maybe leads to fire inside the organization, employees would know which emergency doors to use. And then employers must know where the potential dangers might be and take measures to eliminate or limit the harm of those potential dangers. That is their responsibility again. So this is the responsibility of the employer in making sure that they keep danger out of their organization, or they practice safety for their workers. Is their responsibility, is things the employer should do to try and protect human health and safety in the workplace. Those are the responsibilities of the employer. Now we look into the role of the health and safety representatives in protecting the workplace environment. Now, who are the health and safety representatives? They are appointed inside the business to look into issues of health and safety. So they're basically the representatives who would look whether the environment or their working conditions are health and they are safe for the workers to start working. So their responsibility one would be to identify potential dangers in the workplace, to say where can the danger be, and then they will also investigate workers' complaints about maybe working conditions that might affect their health and safety. And then they also ensure that employers comply with COEDA, which is Compensation for Occupational Injuries and Disease Act. And they also ensure that protective clothing is provided to all workers. That is also another aspect, and promote safety training so that employees may avoid potential dangers or act proactively if such a situation occurs. And then they should also ensure that dangerous equipment is used under the supervision of trained or qualified workers. So that is the role of the health and safety representatives. They look into identifying potential dangers in the workplace. They investigate workers' complaints. They ensure that the employer complies with COEDA, and ensure that protective clothing is provided to all workers. So basically, they are the representatives of making sure that the business ensures and applies the health and safety that should be in the business or in the organization. Then we look into the responsibilities of workers in promoting human health and safety in the workplace. What is the responsibility of the worker? Now, the worker use prescribed safety equipment. That is one. So this is to say, what is the worker supposed to do? We talked about the responsibility of the employer. We talked about the responsibility or the role of the health and safety representative. Now we are talking about the worker, to say what should the workers do as well to contribute towards their human health and safety. So one, they can use prescribed safety equipment. Another aspect that they can use is to report accidents to the employer by the end of the shift, and they can also ensure that workers can also make sure that they take care of their own health and safety in the workplace. And they should inform the employer of any illness that may affect their ability to work. Because if an employer has a particular sickness or illness, that means now if it happens that they become weak while performing their duties, that can be risky to their human health and safety. And then they should cooperate and comply with the rules and procedures, e.g. rules like wear prescribed safety clothing when you are about to enter your workplace. You need to know what the machine is requiring from you when it comes to the safety of operating that particular machine. So that should be the responsibility of the worker as well in keeping themselves healthy and safely. So this is what we are talking about. For instance, there can be instructions to say, ensure that you wear that so that the noise should not affect you as a worker. Wear the safety boots and wear the protectors to your gears, wear the gloves, wear the hats, and wear the glasses when operating this particular machine. This is the responsibility of the worker to ensure that they comply, they use prescribed safety equipment, they also ensure that they cooperate or comply with rules and procedures by wearing prescribed uniform. They will also take care of their own health and safety in the workplace. And if they feel ill, they also report. So those are the responsibilities of the workers. Then, when we look into ways in which the business can protect the environment and promote human health in the workplace, this is how the business can promote human health and the environment. One, machines must be serviced and maintained regularly, and they should educate people about hygiene issues and encourage employees to do regular health checks. And water for human consumption should be tested before it can be used. And they should minimize pollution by reusing, reducing, and recycling. And another aspect is to become involved in environmental awareness programs. So when you're looking into this subheading now, it focuses on what the business can do to protect the environment and promote human health? In a way, we can say this would be focusing to the workers, to say what can the business do to protect the workers, and it can also be an issue of what the business can do now to teach maybe the community about their environment, or keeping the environment in good conditions, or protecting the environment. That is your ways there. So that is ways in which the business can protect the environment and promote human health in the workplace. Now, 3.4, typical exam questions based on environmental issues. You're expected to read the scenario below and answer questions that follow. We have Batandwa clothing manufacturer. Batandwa clothing manufacturer. The management of Batandwa clothing manufacturer has appointed health and safety representatives. They will be responsible for checking the effectiveness of Batandwa clothing manufacturer's health and safety measures. They must also identify potential dangers in the workplace. Now, 3.4.1 requires you to code 2 roles of the health and safety representatives from the scenario above for 2 marks. And then 3.4.2, describe other roles of the health and safety representatives in the workplace. And then 3.5, explain the responsibilities of workers in promoting human health and safety in the workplace. And then 3.6, recommend ways in which the business can protect the environment and human health for 8 marks. That is our last activity over there. Now, go back to your scenario to try and deal with 3.4.1. Batandwa clothing manufacturer has appointed a health and safety representative. Do we have an answer there? No, because the question is to quote 2 roles of the health and safety representative. So we don't have that, because they're just telling us that they have appointed the health and safety representatives within the business. However, when we look into the sentence that follows, they will be responsible for checking the effectiveness of Batandwa clothing manufacturers' health and safety measures. Now, there we might have an answer, and they also identify potential dangers in the workplace. So the first sentence there would be considered, and the second one would also be considered. So let us see if that is correct. So the correct one should be, they will be responsible for checking the effectiveness of Batandwa clothing manufacturers' health and safety measures, and then they will also identify potential dangers. That is 2 marks. Then we look into describing other roles of health and safety representatives in the workplace. What are the other roles? Investigating workers' complaints. That's correct. Remember, the question says other roles. So describe the other roles include investigating workers' complaints, ensuring that the employers comply with COERA, and then ensure that protective clothing is provided to all workers. And then promote safety training so that employees may avoid potential dangers and act proactively, and ensure that dangerous equipment is used under the supervision of trained and qualified workers. So that is for 4 marks. That is correct. And then explaining the responsibility of workers when promoting human health and safety. What is the responsibility of the worker? The worker should use prescribed safety equipment. They should report accidents to the employer by the end of the shift. The workers should take care of their own health and safety in the workplace, and they should inform employers if of any illness that may affect their ability to work, and they should cooperate and comply with the rules and procedures. For example, this can be wearing prescribed safety uniform. That is for 66 marks. And then recommend 4 ways in which the Batandwa clothing manufacturer can protect the environment. This is how: machines must be serviced and maintained on a regular basis, educate people about hygiene issues, and encourage employees to do regular health checks. And then water for human consumption should be tested before it can be used. That's when this is not going to be considered, because the question said recommend 4 ways. So the marker would have to mark the first 4. So the first 4 is machines must be serviced, educate employees about or people about hygiene issues, encourage employees to do health checks, and water for human consumption should be tested before it can be used. That is for 8 marks. That is the end of our lesson. Let's see and summarize what we covered. We covered human rights, which included the privacy, included the right to dignity, the right to equity, together with freedom of speech and expression. And we also looked into the right to information and the right to safety, security, and protection of life. One thing you should remember, how can the assessor now ask these questions? You can be expected to identify your human rights from the statement or scenario and recommend ways in which a business can deal with this human right. Then we also looked into your social rights, which included clean water. We looked into education together with protection and with healthcare. And you should also know ways in which a business could promote these social rights. And remember, we also talked about outlining the economic rights that workers have inside the organization. Then we also looked into diversity issues in the workplace and ways in which a business could deal with diversity issues to ensure inclusivity. We talked about poverty. We talked about how the business can deal with race, how they could deal with gender, together with language and age, together with culture and religion. And we also talked about ways in which a business can deal with disability as a diversity issue. Then we also looked into protecting the environment and human health and talked about the responsibility of the worker in applying that of protecting the environment and human health. We also talked about the role of health and safety representatives in protecting the workplace, together with responsibilities of the employees in protecting the environment and human health, and looked into how the business can protect the environment and human health as well. Then we also looked into cultural rights. Remember, under your human rights, we also looked into ways in which a business is implicated when it comes to equality, respect, and dignity for the business, and talked about ways to promote cultural rights. And we also talked about the benefits of diversity in the workplace. Thank you for watching.